every 3 seconds, an adolescent girl or indeed a child somewhere in the world is married. Every 10 minutes, a woman or a girl dies at the hands of an intimate partner violence or a family member. The proportion of women who are dying giving life continue to rise.
Growing up, I struggled with patriarchal norms and expectations. I discovered scriptures and teachings emphasizing equality, equity, compassion, and justice.
This movement is crucial for women's rights.
In September 2018, the UNIATF established the Multi-Faith Advisory Council, or MFAC, an informal and voluntary entity which consists of 40 religious leaders and heads of faith-based organizations to complement and support UNITEF, which was created by the UN in 2010 and which today includes more than 20 UN agencies. The composition reflects the diversity of religions and geographic presence within MFAC, as well as the different thematic areas we cover, a diversity that mirrors the UN's mandate. The thematic areas that MFAC covers include peace and security, multilateralism, and gender. And the purpose of this reception is to provide perspectives from key UN government and faith actors on the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, to access challenges to the achievement of gender equality and contributions towards the full realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In a world marked by increasing geopolitical tensions, existential climate and environmental threats, the blatant disregard for universal human rights, and a regression in our work towards achieving gender equality, and all in the name of patriarchal interpretations of religion. The future may seem daunting, but it is precisely at this time that we need to solidify our relationships, to commit and to recommit to our collaborative partnerships. While we recognize that faith actors and communities can exacerbate these problems, it is equally important to utilize rights-affirming interpretations of faith as the solution. If you take a look around this room, where you will find many faith-based organizations that have played pivotal roles in advancing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development within their communities. So with that, let us commiserate, share our personal experiences in conversations, and most importantly, lift each other up.
For the ACT Alliance, we have since 2018 took out gender as a cross-cutting issue, but intentionally prepare a comprehensive gender justice program, addressing issues that are very sensitive for many faith traditions. It was not easy, but we are very happy with the outcomes of that. And we have used the gender working group as a strategic way of engaging with the multi-faith groups and also with the UN. We came up with the proposal to have working groups for advance the work. And the gender was the first to be proposed and the first to be filled with all the vacant seats. Because you have advanced gender equality at the UN as an ongoing task. You have not only reserved or confined this during times like CSW or CPD. That has been a constant element in terms of bringing the continuous imperative for gender equality. That is not a one-off focus, but a continuous responsibility for all faith organizations. And it was not easy because we have a diverse membership. It was 40 plus organizations in there, and each one had some different interpretations or even difficulties to engage wider in terms of gender with the constituency. But we have been able to find strategies to advance gender equality, and I'm very happy with that. And I hope that we can learn from the gender working group. And also the work that the working group has been doing was integrated only daily practice driven by the moral imperative of our different organizations participating in the MFAC. In terms of the partnerships, working together with diverse faith and rights groups has been one of the good elements for us, but also a critical role in the partnership with UN agencies. We have organized several events, and it was interesting to see how the UN people learn about the very complex situations that we have to address gender equality, or to address some issues like sexual reproductive health and rights, or sexual identity, bodily autonomy. That was so important to that. We at the end, we decided, yes, we need to do that for inclusion, for respect, for solidarity with those who are affected and marginalized, especially women and girls.
You know, many of you, or all of you, are in town for the CSW. And just this morning, we had a consensus adoption of a relatively strong political declaration. There were no objections in the room. We had strong statements of support. That's the kind of momentum we need to take forward the mandate on gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. So we know that investments in gender equality, in health and rights of women and girls have indeed changed the world, bringing us closer to equal voices and expanded choices than ever before. Women have taken giant strides forward, and as far as I'm concerned, we're not going back. Our goal at the UN is to march forward for equal rights for women and girls everywhere, in every part of the planet. And we're very clear on the fact that we cannot do it alone. We need to work together to achieve these goals. Unleashing that potential of half of humanity, gender equality does lead to safer, more prosperous societies for everyone. Every 3 seconds, an adolescent girl, or indeed a child, somewhere in the world is married. Every 10 minutes, a woman or a girl dies at the hands of an intimate partner violence or a family member. The proportion of women who are dying giving life, so the rates of maternal mortality, continue to rise. With all this being said, it's striking to me that the world has never been more wealthy than it is today, but it's also never been more unequal. The investments that are required for gender equality are only a fraction of what is being received, even though we know that adequate investments would yield trillions of dollars in economic value and immeasurable social benefits. Now, at UNFPA, we recognize that we need the kind of innovative and strategic partnerships, working collaboratively together to take things forward. And that's where religious leaders, religious actors, faith-based institutions have that critical role to play. Close to the communities, you enjoy significant public trust. Your teachings, your work help shape norms and cultures, and even define the roles of women and men and young people in your societies. UNFPA is aware of this, and we're one of the leading agencies when it comes to fostering that relationship between faith actors. And that's something we want to revitalize and to continue to build on. Our UNFPA Uzbekistan office has developed partnerships with the Senate, the International Islamic Academy, the government, the Al-Azhar Institute in Egypt, to tailor a specific program for reaching imams and female religious leaders, mahala representatives and community leaders on women's rights from an Islamic perspective. Now, they've trained over 1,000 female leaders on various dimensions of gender equality and empowerment, including reproductive health and prevention of gender-based violence. And there's this sort of initiative that we want to try and foster. We have different partnerships happening: West and Central Africa, East and Southern Africa, parts of Latin America and the Asia Pacific. And we know that our engagement needs to happen at multiple levels. So in terms of global norms, in spaces like CSW at global and regional, but also when it comes to national legislation, national policy, and then critically when it comes to service delivery. So I'm looking to all of you as we mingle. Let's see how we can meaningfully take things forward and foster the kind of partnerships that we need. There are forces that are in strong opposition to the rights and the well-being of women and of girls everywhere. Call it the anti-gender, anti-rights, different names. Now, many of these groups are very well organized, very well funded, and they have oftentimes religious justifications for their arguments, their regressive arguments. And I was saying to my colleagues at the UN, who better to counter these narratives than faith leaders and religious actors who are well versed in religious texts and who can interpret these religious texts and really demonstrate the value of gender equality. And so that is my plea to all of you. This is an area where we are going to look to you for leadership on how to navigate some of these stormy waters. And so here's to doing more together, going further, faster, and even with much less in terms of resources. We need to be innovative about the way we collaborate. Let's keep holding hands and moving forward.
I'm actually serving as the very first female Assistant General Secretary of the highest ecumenical body in Nigeria, the Christian Association of Nigeria. Faith actors have played and is still playing a significant role in advancing gender equality and promoting the Beijing Declaration over the past 30 years. Despite the effort we have put, I still believe that we need to do more. We need more contributions to promote best practices. In the past, we have used our platforms to raise awareness about gender-based violence, discrimination and inequality, promoting the values of equality and justice. We have worked at the grassroots levels, engaging with local communities to promote gender equalities and challenge harmful gender norms. We have equally organized training programs to promote gender equality, challenge patriarchal norms, and empower women and girls. Many faith actors have successfully contextualized gender equality within their religious traditions, making it more relatable and acceptable to their communities. We have recognized the importance of engaging men, engaging boys in promoting gender equality, challenging toxic masculinity, and at the same time promoting positive masculinities. In addressing many backlashes, we have used religious texts to challenge patriarchal interpretations and promote gender equality, demonstrating that indeed religion can be a powerful tool for promoting social justice through many initiatives. Growing up, I struggled as most young girls in my community with patriarchal norms and expectations. I discovered scriptures and teachings emphasizing equality, equity, compassion, and justice. And this was in spite of my church's inability to explore the truths of gender justice because of our own depth in patriarchy. So I was privileged to lead women at different stages of my life. I realized that many men allowed us women to enjoy our privileges only within the women groups because, as they falsely believed, we are only able to enjoy such privileges when we limit our operations within the women groups. Any other move was seen as trespassing. You're coming to the men's fold. It's a men's word. But I did not think so and was always looking for ways of serving my community regardless of whether or not those opportunities have been male-dominated over long. So about 2 years ago, I decided to push my beliefs in the direction of the highest ecumenical body in Nigeria, the Christian Association of Nigeria. I wanted to change the male-dominated leadership and see the effect of our many years of engagement and conversation, because we see us organizing workshops, seminars, talking, and oftentimes we don't walk the talk. So I needed to see what we have been doing, how much can we practicalize it. So I decided to apply for this vacant position when it was declared. I had polite friends who did not believe that I could make it. They just warned me about how tough the race was going to be. You're entering the man's world. I had some less polite friends who advised me to wait longer because this has not been done before. Some very sneaky ones who pretended to care so much, and they're like, how are you going to cope with your family, your husband, your children? And then I had some condescending friends who reminded me that it was going to be a very tough job, very tough for a married woman to do. But only very few men and women told me that they believed in my ability to hold that office. Regrettably, some of those who were vehement in their discouragement were women. But I refused to allow the negative voices to deter me, so I applied. My courage was strengthened by the men and women who believed in me. And that for me was a sign of change in the right direction. Some of them could encourage me because they had worked with me and learned firsthand that a woman is not smaller because of her sex. She is also an intelligent, living and creative person. The day of the interview came and it was a panel of all men. So I saw myself once again standing alone as the only female in the midst of all men applicants, and at the same time, all men panel. You can guess the questions I received from the panel members. They were not just questions about my intelligence. They were not questions about my competence, but questions about why I should not be bothering with the taking care of my home and my children and my husband. But I got the job. And I believe it was strictly on merit. I scored significantly higher than the other men. I came to learn through this experience and many other similar experiences that justice in religious communities is indispensable. I have also learned that a more just and inclusive faith community requires effort and dedication from all of us. It means challenging our assumptions, listening to diverse perspectives and advocating for policies and practices that promote equality. I have come to realize in this journey that no one faith community is sufficient in itself to deal with the complex brokenness of today's world. We need each other. That word cannot be overemphasized. We need all God's people who are moved towards justice. I have come to realize that when we work together as people of faith, we can create a faith community that values and empowers all individuals, regardless of their gender, background, or religion. You and I can make this possible. Can we just raise our hands up so that together we stand in solidarity with individuals and communities marginalized by gender-based oppression? We commit to listening, learning, and advocating for policies and practices that promote equality, justice, and human rights for all, regardless of your gender, your religion, or your expression.
This moment is crucial for women's rights. We stand at the intersection of reflection and renewal as the international community assesses the progress on the Beijing platform for action. Many of us here today have spent decades addressing inequalities faced by women and girls, especially through interreligious and intercultural dialogue. In pivotal moments like this, we inevitably feel the need to ask ourselves, how far have we come? And how do we measure success in this rapidly changing world? Over the last 30 years, global development institutions have recognized that faith and SDG 5 are intertwined. UN agencies have produced valuable research highlighting the essential role of faith-based organizations as peacemakers and advocates in advancing social transformation and development. Yet, the challenges ahead require more than recognition. They require collective action. This anniversary serves as both a celebration of the progress made, but also as a reminder of how much work remains. The world challenges are evolving faster than the capacity of institutions to address them. We have no choice but to see how interconnected we are. We must recognize that achieving SDG 5 requires a whole-of-society approach. The question that remains is, how do we get the system to collaborate better and deeper? It is time to enhance and broaden the collaboration between secular and faith-based organizations. Breaking down silos between the secular and religious sectors, governments, and the UN is not that just possible. It is essential. We must harness this synergy and translate it into stronger and more impactful action that foster learning and policy coordination, amplify local voices in intergovernmental settings, ensuring all are heard. As we follow the discussions unfolding during this milestone anniversary, we all have high hopes. we look to the UN to bring those on the sidelines into the spotlight and present bold, actionable solutions that connect global processes to local realities. On our end, we need to use this momentum to demonstrate the unique value of our work and role of our platforms and strengthen our networks. We must inform our partners, communities, and stakeholders of the crucial findings and outcomes that can build a shared understanding of development literacy at the grassroots. Our work plan and efforts will be firmly informed by the Beijing Plus 30 agenda and the Pact for the Future. We must engage with all our partners and networks to inform the next phase of our joint efforts and build further capacity in addressing a range of global issues that the UN Women has called our attention, namely the 6+1 key actions, including peace and security, leadership, sustainable economic development, ending violence, closing the digital gap, and climate justice for all women and girls. We need also to embed youth across these actions and also emphasize intergenerational dialogue at every stage of our work. However, progress also requires accountability. Therefore, at the same time, we must offer insights based on evidence and based on good practices, and provide constructive criticism to drive the international systems adaptation, strengthen the religious literacy, and deliver faith-sensitive policies to turn and drive shared values into meaningful actions. The path forward is clear. We need to reshape and transform global cooperation, firmly grounded in the principles of human dignity and inclusivity. We must regard each other as allies, because only together we can harness our collective strengths, our shared commitment, and combine our resources and diverse perspectives to ensure that gender equality isn't just an aspiration, but is a lived reality for all women and girls.